Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see each of you here. How many of you were blessed this morning at what you heard? I can raise my hand. As we were playing the stand-up, sit-down game earlier, we have a 2-year-old, so it was kind of hard to stand up and sit down on our end. But I was raising my hand. That was a lot of fun. Hey. Just wanted to say thank y'all for being here, and I'm excited that we can have a second session with the Nixons. Again, I just wanted to thank this wonderful couple for being willing to come down, and I just want you all to know that you are welcome to come down to the Raleigh Church in any capacity. But just know that if you're coming down, I'm gonna be giving you the stage to speak, and I'll sit with my wife during the service here. Again, we're moving into our second session, and again, what we're really intending to do here is we want to help foster growth both in our marriages and in our family life here at the Raleigh Church. And we also understand that there are those who may have found themselves in the midst of great trials. Some may have been at the brink of divorce at some point. Some of you have gone through that before. But you know what? I also want to let you know we have some newly engaged people in this room as well. And so as we're at different points in our varying relationships, it's a great thing for us to be able to have this opportunity to learn and grow in our listening and in our acceptance of each other. And as we mentioned this morning, that no one mirrors that radical acceptance more than our Savior in heaven. So first off, I just wanted to invite the Nixons forward. We have a little gift here for you this is from the Raleigh Church, and we hope this will be just a little bit of a small token to show our appreciation to the both of y'all. And again, we're very, very thankful to have you here. I just want to say a prayer for you before you begin, and then I'll turn the microphones over to you. Heavenly Father, Lord, again, we just want to thank you so much for what we've heard and what we're going to hear. And so, Lord, I pray that you would anoint the lips of John and April, and as they share, may each of our hearts be open and receptive to what we hear. May we be challenged, and may we take what we've learned, may we apply that to our individual families and marriages and relationships here. We love you, Lord, and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. We do have something to put on the screen too. I don't know if it's there. I think we gave it to you. You have it, right? Okay, good. I see it now. Beautiful. I want to just reiterate something that, extroverts and introverts are different. I'm an extrovert. April's an introvert. So I said to her right before we got up here, we should ask everybody to move to the center. And she was like, nah, people want to be comfortable where they are. I think that was like the most introvert thing we could have suggested. So we're not going to ask you to do any of that. You don't have to move. You can stay right where you are. It's not going to be a problem at all. We should have a good time. Let's pray first again. We'll pray one more time before we get started. Thank you again, Father. Thank you for the Sabbath. Thank you for the meal, the fellowship that we had together. Thank you for this morning. And we ask your blessing on us now as we strive to learn more about you and about each other, different techniques and ways that we can grow and just make our love story better. Help us to continue to write it in a way that is deliberate so that we can just get to the next level as couples. Thank you again for your love. In Christ's name, amen. Okay, so we want to continue our love story. It's a good song, though. It's not wrong. I like it.
So we want to talk to you about our experience 7 months into our marriage. We were in a terrible car accident. John was driving. We were driving back from a wedding, and he was driving 80 miles an hour and went head first down a 30-foot ravine and tumbled over multiple times. And as you can see, the car that you probably can't even recognize the car make there.
Can anybody tell what kind of car that is? Now, the top right picture is the best. Like, you can see the rims, so you can probably tell what that is. But it's a Nissan Altima, 1999 or something like that. 1999 Nissan Altima. And there were 4 of us in the car. April and I were in the front seat. I was driving. April was in the passenger seat. And then my brother and his girlfriend at the time were in the back seat. We should have died, definitely.
The cop who had worked there in that area for 20 years said he's never seen anyone go down there and come out alive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can see the bridge there.
Yeah, so that's Highway 40, Interstate 40. You've seen it before where you're driving and then all of a sudden you're obviously on a bridge because you look down and there's like a drop. Well, we went into the where the grass part is, and when that ran out, we went over like it was like a cliff. And yeah, it was pretty bad. April had bleeding on her brain. She had a separated shoulder. My brother was actually stuck in the back of the car. They had to get the jaws of life to cut him out and helivac him somewhere. His girlfriend broke her femur, and for those of you in the medical profession, that's the biggest bone in your body. To break that takes some serious force.
His brother had to have facial reconstructive surgery.
Yep.
He could not walk. He had to learn how to walk again. So it was, and we're all walking and fine.
Oh, yeah, everything's fine now.
And everything,
Yes,
God
yes.
is so good. I mean,
Yes.
it's amazing what God. So 7 months in, we're 22 years old. Let's see, I turned 22.
You turned 22 in January, yeah.
So we really had no idea what to do. We didn't know how to navigate through this traumatic situation. We had so many feelings and emotions and did not know what to do with any of them. You know, back then, we were brought up that you don't go to therapy unless you're crazy. Mm-hmm. No, really, like that's what we were taught. Like
Yeah.
you don't even say it.
Right.
So that wasn't even an option.
Right.
So we went about 3 years?
It wasn't quite
No.
that long because
No,
the
because
accident happened in 2001.
No, I'm talking about before the actual therapy session. So
It would have been at seminary,
maybe 2.5 or so.
something like that.
So we went about 2.5 years not really communicating with each other about how we really felt. It was bad.
Now, hold on a second.
And he had to he was actually my caregiver
Right.
for a bit because, I mean, I literally was on drugs all the time because the pain was extreme. I could not do anything for myself.
Her arm was in a sling, so I had to like wash her
But
hair
I was
for her.
also just out of it. I was
Yeah.
out of it. And I had no memory for, an entire week?
Maybe 2
He
weeks.
had short-term memory. So it was about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Every single morning I woke up and said, why are we at my parents' house? He had to tell me every single morning the accident story.
But before that, it was in the hospital I had to tell you that. So before you got released from the hospital, every day when you woke up, I had to tell you why you were there. And then when we got to your parents' house for about another week, I had to do the same thing.
And every time he told me, I burst into tears and was seriously emotional about the story. And the same thing happened again the next morning. So I was in a daze. It was like I was on drugs and I was just constantly in a fog. So I had feelings about the accident. He had feelings about the accident. We were not expressing those feelings. So those deep feelings turned into us arguing with each other over things that didn't really have to do with that thing, but it had to do with the other emotion that was going on inside.
So the challenging thing about what April just said, and many of you had bewildered looks on your faces, she said we really didn't communicate. So most couples that come to us, when we ask them how well they do with communication, they answer, we talk all the time. But that's not actually an answer to the question. Because April and I were still talking that whole time, but we weren't really communicating our true feelings about things that were happening deeply to us. And so what we found was communicating is not just about talking. Like, you'd be surprised how little you communicate with the actual words that you're saying. You're mostly communicating in other ways. And so what we want to really talk about today was strengthening our love story. Right now, we want to talk about this idea of resolutionary communication. Communicating in a way that seeks to resolve conflict even before it happens. Now, we probably should tell you the end of that story just so you know, because I don't think we ever come back to it for this, and you're going to be on a cliffhanger the whole time. We got to the seminary. I accidentally had a therapy session. I was taking a pastoral counseling class, and the teacher, the professor, asked for a volunteer, for someone to come up who he could demonstrate with. He was going to give a therapy session in front of the class to someone. And the Holy Spirit told me to raise my hand, and so I did. And we got up there, and he said, hey, this isn't going to take long. I'm just going to, just take a few minutes here since we can show you some of the concepts we've been learning. He said, just share with me an experience that you had, maybe something, I don't think he used the word traumatic. He just said something in your life that you'd like to talk about, something like that. And I just told him about the accident. And I'm sitting there talking to this guy about this accident thing, and he's like continuing to respond to me like it's a real therapy session, because it was. It was just in front of the whole class. And by the end, we went like 45 minutes. We went like the whole class period. And there were some things that I learned in that therapy session that helped me to know just how broken I was from that accident, and ways in which I could help to heal my wife as well. One of the things he said was, he helped me to see this, was that my wife was blaming herself because I fell asleep at the wheel. She was taking a nap. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever. This is, pretty late. And so she was sleeping, and so were the other people in the car. And April was blaming herself that she didn't stay awake with me, because had she stayed awake, I wouldn't have fallen asleep, and this would have never happened. I never thought that she could be even thinking something like that. So he helped me through some things so that I could go back and settle this with my wife, and it actually opened up. So first of all, this made us serious proponents of therapy. We tell people all the time they should get therapy. Like,
I went to his teacher as well.
yes, that's right. He was actually
Right
a counselor
after
on
that.
campus. And so she actually went to him later and actually had her own therapy session, not in front of the class, just one-on-one, like the traditional way it's supposed to be. But the reality is, we have found that many of the couples that we deal with, if we could find a way to sort of take away the negative stigma around therapy, they are just one step away sometimes from a little bit more wholeness in their relationship. Some of us are so broken. We need like a person who does this professionally to help us. You know what I'm saying? That's just a little plug for that. That has nothing to do with our thing, but it's, just so you know that we didn't just accidentally end up having a good relationship after that. I think had we kept going down that road and not gotten therapy, we either wouldn't be happily married or we might not be married still. It was that bad. People say this all the time. You've been in a car accident before. Have you ever broken something? Like actually had some physical trauma to your body as a result of a car accident or something like that? It would be stupid not to go to the hospital and get that fixed, right? Well, some of us are broken inside that way. Because we can't see it, it's easier to just say, I'll be fine. No, some of us need like actual mental surgery. And it's not bad. It's okay. You're not crazy. Okay, so that was just a commercial. Here is the definition of resolutionary communication. It's something that we made up. We make up stuff all the time.
Yes. So the ability to communicate in a way that seeks to resolve conflict.
And this is biblical because Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath. but a harsh word stirs up anger. I don't think you got that. The text is basically saying you have the power to keep it from ever being an issue, and you probably already know this, you also have the power to create it and to make it into an issue, just by the way that you decide to respond. A gentle answer can literally stop an argument in its tracks. And a harsh one can create a problem that wasn't there in the first place. So you got the power. Bible says death and life are in the tongue. Didn't it say that? It's kind of bad that we have that kind of power, but okay. Let me go to the next one. Here is the blueprint that if you don't get anything else, the Bible actually gives you the blueprint for resolutionary communication. Let's read it together. Understand this, dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Now, how many of us are quick to listen? I'm glad, Pastor, you got a very honest church. I'm glad to see that. Most of us are not quick to listen. How many times have you created an issue because you really didn't listen all the way and you reacted to something that wasn't actually what the person said?
And the reason why we are quick to speak is because we're trying to defend ourselves.
Very often.
As soon as we're being accused of something, we want to say, that's not what I meant. Mm-hmm. This is what I was really trying to do. But then you didn't even hear what it is they were trying to say to gain the understanding there. So sometimes, and we say this, sometimes it's just that the person wants you to listen to them. Have you ever had an experience where someone listened to you and that's all they did? And you were like, I feel great. That was
Didn't
awesome.
even resolve the issue.
Right?
Just
that happens with
listened
me
to.
as a teacher. Some parents come in and they complaining, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I know how you feel. That would be a problem. If I were in your situation, I'd feel the same way. I didn't fix it. I didn't go to the principal. I did nothing. But they're like, thank you so much, Ms. Nixon. I feel so much better. But I didn't do anything. But what they wanted to feel listened to. Yeah. So everyone wants to feel listened to. So when we're quick to speak instead of being quick to listen, it actually can cause conflict just because you were not listening.
So I like the second part when it says to be slow to speak, because if I relate to any Bible character, it's Peter. Peter's the guy who wishes he could take what he just said back. And I've had many instances like that in my marriage, in my pastoral ministry. That's like my Achilles heel. And so this second part of it's actually for me. So quick to listen, I'm actually a pretty good listener. I'm not really great at being slow to speak. What that's really saying is don't react. So after you've listened, take some time to let that thing marinate. Don't just say the first thing that comes to your mind, because sometimes that can create another problem.
And this takes a lot of practice.
Of course it does.
Because it's very hard. Because I know I don't want to be seen in a negative light. You know, I don't want him to ever think that I was trying to do something wrong to him. So my initial reaction is going to be, I want to defend myself. I want to make sure he knows I did not do that on purpose. So that's what I start trying to fight, to save myself from looking bad in his eyes. And that's not really the point, is it? It's not really the point.
So the last one, slow to get angry, obviously that speaks volumes. You know, you can listen to what the person says, and you can slow down and not speak right away, but you're boiling inside. That's a little bit harder to deal with. That one, I think, takes more than just practice. You're going to need prayer. That's a hard one, especially when we're talking about something that recurs. These recurring issues, by the way, if you've been married longer than 5 minutes, you already have a recurring argument that you know is going to happen a few times a year, maybe once a quarter, maybe twice a month. I don't know. But we all have it, right? Yes. And it's that thing that really is the intersection between how we're different and the things that are really important to us. We're gonna probably do this again. We have to find ways to get victory over the anger in those situations. Because if this is the 5th time or the 6th time, oh man, we just did this last year. I thought we got over this, and now here we are again. You've got to have some realistic eyes on. When it really comes down to it, there are some things that may never be resolved, and that's okay.
It's about how you navigate through that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And when I say resolved, I simply mean It's not that you're going to be at a 10 every time you talk about this. It's just you're never going to get your way fully on this particular issue. You're going to have to come to grips with that. That's just how it is when you're married. Am I telling the truth right now? Okay, just making sure.
Okay, so you want to go ahead and read your quote there?
Too many couples choose being right over being connected.
So I'm gonna tell a quick little story about that because in our relationship, we would go back and forth because we were trying to be right. I was trying to be right, he was trying to be right. So we're basically fighting for that. Well, we've been working on that, and we've really been doing good. We really have. And
Took
I'm
like
proud of
20-something
us.
years, though.
Yes, but we're doing much better. But I'm going to just tell you a story. We had to do a marriage retreat in Ohio at Kettering College, or Kettering Church, and we had driven from Maryland to Ohio all the way. A great trip. I mean, the scenery was beautiful. We had music playing. We were just having a great time. Stopped, got something to eat. It was just a wonderful trip. We get there, we're with our friends, we're staying at their Airbnb, we're talking to them, everything's going well, and John wanted to go to the store to grab something, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to go with you." He was like, "Well, babe, no, you probably need to stay here and do your hair." And I was like, "Yeah, that's true, I probably do." And I was like, "But I want to come with you." He's like, "No, I think you should." I said, "Okay, well, let me get my stuff out the trunk." So open the trunk, and I was like,
Hold on, I want you to know something. Do you see how April's talking and she's going like this? Do you see that? Okay, now some of y'all know what that means. Anyway, go ahead.
So I opened the trunk, and there is no bag. No bag.
No, there's a bag. It's just mine.
It's just his. The presentation was that night. It was in a couple hours, actually. Nothing. So I'm like, "Did you take my bag in already?" He's like, "What are you talking about? Did you take your bag in already?" Like, it was, okay. So normally, I would have been like, "Babe, where's my bag? You didn't get my bag?" Right? I would have been like, "You always get my bag. How did you not get my bag?" It would have been a blame. But I don't know what happened to me. I don't know what it was. But I just stayed and I said to myself, you know what? If I do that, what is that going to do? It's not going to bring the bag back. We have to present and tell these people how to have a good marriage. So I can't be doing that, right? So I had to I prayed. I actually prayed. And then I said, "Man, babe, I didn't even realize I did not get my bag." Now, I could have said, "Why didn't you get my bag?" Because he always gets my bag. Like, I feel like I'm a princess. Like, I pack my stuff, put it over there, and I'll just be like, he's going to get my bag, right? I did not say that. I said, "Man, babe, I didn't get my bag. I had to go to the bathroom right before we left. I went downstairs and got something, and then I just went out and got in the car. I wasn't even thinking." He could have responded with, well, because I didn't respond with blaming him, his response was, "Oh, man, babe, I should have gotten your bag."
Right. Which is totally opposite of what I would have done in that situation. I would have blamed just like she would have. I would have said, "Why didn't you have it ready at the time?" Because here's what happened. She says that, and I said, "Wait a minute, what happened? Man, I didn't get your bag." Now I'm like trying to figure out what exactly happened. Then I realized, when it was time for me to take all the bags downstairs, she wasn't quite ready yet. There was one more thing she wanted to put in the bag that she was using. And because she was using it, she didn't put it in the bag. So her bag was upstairs, still not ready to go. I went downstairs and did everything, and then I did something uncharacteristic. I didn't go back upstairs. I normally would go back upstairs afterwards, but I didn't. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why I didn't. And so I thought I had everything in the car already, and I actually didn't. Her bag was still upstairs. She zipped it up and put it down in a certain spot. I never went up there to even see it. So
that could have been a terrible situation for us as a couple before we're going to present. It could have been that we had a big argument. We were blaming each other. We're not listening. We're defending ourselves and fighting in front of our friends, trying to figure out what to do. Matter of fact, our friend guy, he was like, "What is this?" He was like, "How are you guys reacting in this way?" And this was not planned. This was not planned. So I think, just practicing that, think about it, and I feel like that was a moment that God gave to test us. Because I really asked the Lord, "Why did you have me forget my bag? Like, I don't understand." because this never happens. I mean, I had to go we had to go to Target and all these other Marshalls and just rebuy everything. But anyway, it worked out. No one even knew that happened. Yeah, until we told them, but yes. But anyway, that's just an example of how you can actually stop a conflict from happening just by reacting a certain way. Do you know that we could actually stop so many conflicts just from that one thing? You know it's true. If we would just react differently, we probably wouldn't have as many.
Change that for me if you would. Quick to speak, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. Okay, now, here's the other piece that's huge. Have you ever read Rick Warren's book, The Purpose-Driven Life? There's a quote that he has in there that I think is absolutely beautiful, and I know that it's true. He says, the road to intimacy leads through conflict. That doesn't even sound like it makes sense. It doesn't, but it does make sense. I'll give you an example right now. We told you already, spoiler alert, we broke up with people to get with each other at Oakwood, right? So the girl I was dating, I actually liked. She was a very nice person. We got along extremely well. But the reason it didn't work out is because of one thing, and I didn't know what it was. I was with her for probably a semester. I think it was the second semester of my freshman year. So April wasn't even on campus yet. This is the only chance that any other girl had, really. So that second semester, I'm dating this girl, and I like her. We like each other's company. Everything is fine. We're really doing well together. And then one day it hit me, I don't think she's ever disagreed with me before. Like, not once. About anything. So I decided to test it one day. I'm not even sure how I realized it. And one day I said, you know what? I'm going to see what she does. She'll say, where do you want to eat? And I'll say, I don't know. Maybe we should get pizza. So that's a good idea. And I'll say, what do you want to eat? And she'll say, pizza's fine. I say, okay. The next day, same thing. I'll say, what do you want to eat? And she'll say, what do you want to eat? And now I'm thinking, I mean, do you not have a mind? Like, I don't get it. Like, do you not like food? You know what I'm saying? I don't understand. And I don't think I'm weird. Okay, I am weird. I am weird, and I may be slightly combative. So maybe I enjoy a good, disagreement. Maybe that's true. Okay, that is true. That is who I am. She's accepted that. So it could have never worked with this person for me because I actually felt, I don't really know you if you can't be honest enough with me to tell me your feelings about something that really doesn't even matter. I mean, what do you want to eat? That's nothing. You know what I'm saying? There was no chance of us ever getting past the surface level because I didn't know her. Because to know someone, you have to be honest, even about things that maybe don't matter. And she never shared her true feelings with me about anything. I think it's because she was nervous that if we had a disagreement, I would say, I don't want to be in this relationship. But honestly, there's nothing wrong with conflict. It's just how you handle it. Conflict is good. In fact, you'll never really have a deep level of intimacy with the person that you're with if you never have conflict. I'm not saying you have to have knockdown, drag-out fights. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying you will not agree on everything. My dad used to say this. He said, if you agree on everything, one of you is lying. That's it. Because you ain't going to agree on everything. You want me to say that? Seek first to understand rather than being understood. You guys know that quote by Stephen Covey? Very good quote. This is important for us as well.
Now, we just talked about how we want to feel listened to, but we've come to realize that there are times when either one of us will share our feelings with each other, and you may not understand what they're actually going through or understand how they feel for yourself, but you can understand how they feel for them. Do you understand what I mean by that? So because I know him very well, I really don't understand how he cringes when the dishwasher is not loaded in exactly perfectly, the way he likes it.
I don't care about that anymore.
I don't really understand that. However, I do understand that because of who he is. So because I know him very well, I understand how he feels based on what I know about him. So we are not always, the idea of I understand everything you're feeling. That's not going to happen. You may not understand every single thing, but you know them. So if my spouse shares his feelings with me, I can actually listen to those feelings and say, you know what, let me listen to them from the lens of John. Let me listen to these feelings based on his lens. And then I can say, you know what, I understand how you can feel that way. I understand how you can feel that way. And that will make him feel listened to. And now I am understanding, I'm seeking first to understand rather than being understood, because it's not about me when it's his feelings. It's about him. So because I know him, I can understand. So sometimes we can just say that. I understand how you can feel about that, how you can feel that way, and then end it. Because sometimes we want to say, I understand how you feel. I can understand how you can feel that way, but, right? But it's not about me when he's sharing his feelings. That's so hard, isn't it? That's very hard. But if we practice that, it actually can become a regular, easy thing to do.
So we actually call this a thing. We call it supportive listening. You guys have heard of active listening before. It's like a technique where you're demonstrating. We will. You're right, because that's actually we're going to come back to that. But supportive listening is a little bit different. We try to do this pretty regularly with each other too. Sometimes April will come home from work after having. I'm sorry, she works from home now. Sometimes she'll come up from the basement, and she just had a really hard day, and she needs someone to listen to her in a way that lets her get her feelings off her chest, to feel, to just kind of gripe and complain, whatever.
Now, I'm going to say that when I was a teacher, I would come home and have the same things. I would come home and I would express to him the frustration that I have, and he would always want to fix it. So he'd say, well, why don't you do this? Or you should have done that. And I'm like, that's not what I want. That's not what I need. I need you to be like, you right, babe, she wrong for that. That parent should not have said that to you. That's what I need. But instead, he would give me all these solutions as to what I needed to do, which sounded like he was against me. Sounded like he was on the side of the principal, on the side of the teacher, on the side of the parent, when he really was trying to fix it for me. But that's not what your spouse, sometimes they don't need that. Sometimes they do, and they'll ask for that. What do you think I should do? But most of the time, they need you to just be supportive, even if you don't agree with them. And I don't saying lie, but because you know your spouse, you can say, I see how you could feel that way, because you know me. And that is what supportive listening can be. Even in a conflict, you can supportively listen.
That's very true. It's probably better to start off that way. Again, you're seeking to understand rather than being understood. Okay, so there's two types of communication that you guys already know about. There's verbal communication, which is using speech and language to send a message. And then, of course, there's nonverbal communication, not using words, but instead using our bodies. So can you see those percentages there? I've seen this many different places. They say that your words communicate about 7% of what you're trying to get across. But then, 38% is tone, and then 55% is body language. So that means that most of the time, 93% probably, you're not communicating with the words that you say. I should say, you are communicating something with your words, but the way the words should be interpreted are often with the tone and the body language. Now, this presents a problem for me in particular because I'm very analytical, and whenever we have an argument, the thing that I'm hyper concerned about is what she said. And when I say hyper concerned, I mean like we're parsing every single word, like every sentence, you know what I'm saying? Like this is not, no, that's not what you said.
And I'm
That's
Like,
not.
but that's not what
what
I
you.
meant. That's not what I meant, though.
But that's not what you said. You ever had that kind of conversation? So I actually feel this way, and I wonder how many others feel this way. I actually have always felt that in an argument, at least for me, the words you say are the most important thing. And I'm not sure why that is for me.
The tone
Right.
and body language is the most important.
Yeah. So I don't know how y'all feel about that.
Yeah, so I want you to, and you may have never shared this with your partner, I don't know, but turn to your partner or anybody near you and just tell which one is more important to you, tone, let's say the nonverbal or the verbal. Turn to your partner, tell why. Just
And
really
say
quickly,
why it is.
share
What
very
is it
quickly.
about that makes it that way for you?
Okay, so raise your hand if you are verbal. You think verbal is more important
For you.
for you.
You know? Yeah, what you say is okay.
Okay, raise your hand if it's
I'm not the only one.
nonverbal for you.
Yeah.
Wow, most people know.
Now, but
Wow.
notice, babe, I saw one couple. Do that again. Show me nonverbal. Nonverbal. One.
No, you meant verbal.
Look. No, just nonverbal. Okay. 1, 2. That's it. So what I'm saying is, okay, 3. I saw 3 couples who agree on which one it is. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So what that means is, when you come to a disagreement, you're probably coming with slightly different objectives, and maybe your playing field is slightly different. You have to find a way to even that out. Because if one of you thinks that in a disagreement the most important thing is what I say, and the other one thinks it's how I say it, then we're going to have a conflict in the middle of our conflict that's going to change into something else, which happens most of the time with us. We're talking about a particular thing, and then we go off on a tangent and argue about how we're arguing. And now we're on a totally different thing, and we end up really never getting the actual initial issue resolved because we're on this other thing. So we've got to find a way to level that playing field, and here it is. You got to meet each other where you are. By the way, all of these principles are Christ-centered. Don't you love that Jesus meets us where we are? Do you realize where you would be if Jesus made you come to him first? He says, no, you can stay right there. I'm coming to you. And by the way, when I come to you, my touch will change you, and I can make you come to where I am. That's what he does with us, right? So we need to be doing the same thing in our relationships. We got to find a way to be able to meet each other where the other one is. That means I have to suspend this idea that my way is superior. We talked about that earlier. I think words are more important, but that doesn't mean I'm right and April's wrong. Because these statistics show me, apparently, that, most of the time when I'm communicating, it's nonverbal. There's got to be something there.
And I think that that's one of the biggest things in marriage, and that is, I think my way is the right way. We should really be thinking that my way is a different way. It's another way. It's not
a way.
It's a way.
It's not the way.
It's not the way, but sometimes I think we do think it is the way. And we come to our spouse with that attitude. Why do you do that? But that way isn't wrong. It's just a way. So I think that goes right back to acceptance, doesn't it? Accepting the fact that words mean something. So I have to think about what I have to say before I say it. I actually have to think about
and I need
the
to wear a
words that I
straight
use.
jacket. I need to wear a straight jacket and put my hands behind my back while I'm talking.
Yeah, John's like-
Otherwise, I'm all,
And I'm like, well, what do those arms mean?
Okay, so that's all clear. That's all stuff you probably heard before. I want to turn a little bit to something that I think is one of those other areas of gentle discomfort. Okay, here's what I think is happening in most of our relationships around communication. Here's the main reason why I think we don't do as well as we could, and that is we're not assertive. Most of the time, we are not assertive. Now, the word assertive is chosen deliberately, and I have the definition there just so you don't get the wrong idea. Assertive is not aggressive. In fact, look at the definition, assertive. The quality of being self-assured and confident without being aggressive. Okay? I'm assertive. What does assertiveness look like in communication? First of all, I have a feeling, and the feeling is probably strong. I want to make sure I communicate that feeling to you without hiding at all. This is the hard part. Most of us hide and don't realize we're hiding. April's going to share that with you in a second in some examples of what we're talking about. But when you're being assertive in your communication with your spouse, you are bearing yourself. You're completely naked. You're saying the feeling exactly as you actually feel it. You're actually taking the time to sit with the feeling so you know what you feel. And then you're sharing that with your spouse with the great possibility of being crushed. The hardest part about being assertive in a relationship. Remember, assertiveness is not aggression. So I'm not angry, I'm not mad, I'm not coming at you forcefully, but I am sharing my true feeling with you. Okay, that other one, assertiveness. The ability, this is from the Prepare and Rich guide. You're right, I don't have to, you know what? Thank you, babe. I'm old now, and I can't really see that. It'd be so much easier to read it from here. The ability to express one's own feelings and to ask for what one wants. One of the things that April and I do when we have counseling sessions with couples, we look at facial expressions, we watch body language, we hear one person say to the other one, that doesn't bother me, but their body says something different. Our job is to challenge you on that and say, hey, Bill, do you actually believe that? Oh, yeah, of course I believe it. Well, I'm not sure because when she said that, your body language changed. Is there something you want to share with her on that? And then he may actually share it or he may not. If Bill's not willing to share it, it's probably because he's shared something like this before and he was not rewarded for sharing. Instead, he was punished. You know, we can do that to each other. Sometimes when I'm vulnerable and I bare myself to my wife, sometimes she responds in a way that makes me say, I want to do that again. Other times, I say to myself, this is why I don't do this.
So that's the difference between vulnerably being assertive versus negatively being assertive. Okay? Am I
So
saying that
vulnerable
right?
assertiveness
Yes,
and negative assertiveness
exactly.
are two different things.
Yes. So here's an example. Here's an example. I'm going to be vulnerably assertive right
Okay.
now. Okay. John goes out of town a lot because he's working. This is just an example. He goes out of town all the time, and I don't like it. Okay. So I'm going to now be vulnerable in my assertiveness.
Why don't you be negative first? Because I think that's when we'll all
Okay.
probably...
All right. I'll be negative first. Okay. I'll be negatively assertive. So he's traveling a lot, and he's not home. Okay. Here we go. You say you want to...
Hey, I'm going to Philadelphia next week for a conference.
Again? You were just gone a week ago, and then you're leaving again? You were gone for like 3 days. You were only back for a day. We didn't even get to hang out, and then you're going to go again? Wow. Okay. That's cool.
Here I am again on the inside, you know.
He's showing the inside, because that's not what the outside would do. The outside... No, I'm just kidding. He's really not mean. He's just excited.
Thank you, babe.
Yes, he's very excited.
So
As you
first
can
of
see,
all,
he's like that.
what April just did, you may not realize, that whole response was hiding.
Because what I really wanted to say, what I was actually saying...
Here's the real thing. This is vulnerable assertiveness. I'm going out of town again next week to Philadelphia for a conference.
Oh, babe, you're going away again? You know, it's really hard because actually lately I've been really missing you. We haven't had a lot of what is it?
Quality.
I can't even say the word. Quality time, and I really need that because I miss our time together. I miss you, babe.
I'm gonna find a way to change that trip. So first of all, I could have responded this way, which probably would have made her never do that
So
again.
after I have my vulnerable moment, he could say,
Please, girl, we just saw each other we just went out 2 days ago. Our quality time is fine.
so what is that going to make me do? Never.
She's not doing that again.
Because our human, you know, what we do as humans, we automatically try to protect ourselves. Yes. And we're trying to protect our hearts as well. So if he responds that way, I'm embarrassed. You can actually get embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. I'm a little broken. I am hurt. I'm definitely not going to do that again. So now I'm going to hold it in the next time, and then I'm going to let it build and build and build and build, and then one day I'm just going to go off. Yeah. And he's going to say, where is this coming from? Right. I thought we were good, right?
This is how we handle it most of the time, but the reason we do it is because we don't know the importance or the value of being assertive. Does your spouse really know how you feel about stuff? Or do they think everything's fine because you keep hiding it because you don't want to hurt their feelings or you don't want to have an argument? Whatever your reason is. We do this all the time.
We do. So I want to just tell you, I don't know if you know Terry Crews from Everybody Hates Chris?
He's on more than that, but you know.
Well, yeah, but anyway. I forgot the other show he's on. But
Me too.
anyway.
America's Got Talent or something like that?
Yeah. So he was being interviewed by this guy, and he was just talking about the hardships he's had in his marriage. I won't get into all that. But in the end, he said, you know, his wife left him. They didn't get divorced, but she left, and they got back together. And he said when they got back together, they decided that they were going to be totally honest with each other, like share everything. He says, my wife knows every single thing about me, and I know every single thing about her. And he said, now our intimacy is at the next level. He said, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, we are so intimate with each other. So it's not just physical. You know that, right? It's a total intimacy. And he was saying because of that we've been honestly sharing our feelings with one another and sharing what we're going through personally, he said that their intimacy has gone to another level. There's something about that, sharing your true feelings, even when those true feelings might hurt the other person, but it's actually going to heal the marriage. It's healing, actually. So that hurt actually heals.
The Bible actually has a text that says that sharp words cut like a sword, but words of wisdom heal. There are times when what I share with April might hurt her feelings, even though I'm not trying to be hurtful, but that will heal the same way that a scar from a scalpel incision will heal. It's a sharp instrument designed to help you live. Well, a sword is designed to kill you. So when the Bible says sharp words cut like a sword, it really is saying there are times with the way that we speak to each other, our intent is to cut the other person down. That's not what you want in your relationship. That doesn't mean that everything you share is always going to be helpful. Sometimes it might hurt to hear it, but if the intent is to cut out something negative, that's okay. So be a little bit more precise with your scalpel in your relationship. Don't wield your sword. Put the sword away. Put it in a gun safe or something like that, and forget the combination. You use a scalpel when you're communicating with each other. That's what assertiveness is.
So we decided in our relationship that we would say to each other before we're about to be vulnerable, I would say, which I did the other night, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, couldn't sleep. I was like, babe, I'm going to be vulnerable with you right now. Is that okay? It's almost like, can you handle that? Can you handle me being vulnerable right now? And he's like, okay. So you know what it does? Right away, triggers in his mind, I have to respond properly. Just hearing that makes him get in the right mind frame So when I shared what I needed to share, his response was positive. I mean, it wasn't even an argument. It actually turned out great because I warned him. It's kind of like a nice warning. I'm about to be vulnerable with you. So we've started that in our relationship. It is great. I mean, because even like my husband, it's very hard for him to share his feelings. So when he is able to say, I'm about to be vulnerable with you, it's not just for me, it's for him too. It's to help him to get ready to share feelings that's hard for him to share.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but look on the screen. Bottling up our emotions can increase the risk of premature death, including death from cancer. So there's a physical thing that happens inside of us when we keep that stuff in. So you've got to get more comfortable sharing with each other, and assertiveness is the key. All right, so we've got 5 things we want to put on there, 5 different techniques that you can use. You might want to take a picture of this so you can see this later. If you want to overcome avoidance. So remember, we want you to be assertive. The opposite of that is avoidance. Most of us try to avoid conflict, but it's not necessary to avoid it when we do it well, right? We can actually almost invite conflict now because we know how to do it. Here's 5 techniques.
All right, so see conflict positively. Disagreeing does not mean you have to fight.
That's right.
Okay, we just said that. So
You also
seeing
wanna-
it as a positive thing. Because think
ahead.
about it.
Sorry.
If you don't have conflict, I mean, will you really? We only see conflict as fighting. Conflict. When you hear the word conflict, you think fighting, but that's not really what it means. It just means that here's something you have to share that really could turn into something, or it could be something that can be fixed.
I think
Through
the
a
word
conversation.
disagreement is a little
Disagreement.
lighter, and you need to think of it that way. Second thing is to map it out. Have a plan for how you're going to approach your spouse. One of the things that April talked about just a second ago, this whole I'm about to be vulnerable thing, that actually helps us tremendously. And we're going to show you a different technique that you can use as well. It's called pass the mic. We'll show you that last before we take your questions.
Okay, calm yourself. If you feel anxious, call a timeout and go relax for a minute.
Now, this is important because some of us, our fighting style is that we want to deal with it immediately. And then others of us always want to wait until later. And the person that wants to wait until later, sometimes the time frame can be unreasonable. So you may have to push yourself, even if you do need a timeout, not to say, okay, we'll come back to this 5 days from now. Well, by then, it may not even really be relevant.
That's why we said go relax for a minute.
Yeah,
For a time, just for-
not a week.
Take charge of your emotions. Be aware of how you really feel. So I'm going to tell you what I do. Whenever I see a conflict coming, I will pray. I will literally go in my own space and pray and ask God to show him what he's done wrong. No, but seriously, I do ask that though, but show me as well. I'll say, Lord, please show. If I'm wrong, Lord, right now I
If
don't
I'm
feel that
wrong.
I'm wrong. But if I am, please show me. I really believe that God does that. He has shown me because I have had to humble myself. I believe we need to be humble in our relationships. I've had to humble myself and be like, okay, babe, I'm really sorry for, really. I've had to humble myself because I really don't think I'm wrong. But you know what? I may have been wrong by the way I said something or how I brought it, how I reacted. And I think that humbling yourself. So I do believe praying, that's just a cliche, pray about it. But I do believe when you pray and ask God to show you where you're wrong, he will.
So the last one is don't hesitate. This is the part about being assertive. Don't let your feelings fester. Be direct and factual. It's very important. I think that last one is the one that some of us really need. Don't just let it go, because what that tends to do is to build up, and then when you explode, there's no way it can be positive. It's literally impossible at that point.
Okay, this next slide is key. Proverbs 18:13. Answering before listening is both stupid and rude. The Bible says that.
This is the Bible.
Message Bible. So, I mean, if we would just follow this text, we would be okay, right?
Okay, so we want to show you this last thing. And by the way, so put the last slide up if you would. We want you to take some time for question and answer after this, and you can ask us questions about this morning session or this one or anything. anything you want. It's fine. We probably just need one mic, right? Okay. So there's this active listening exercise that we call Pass the Mic. This is actually an argument tactic that April and I use whenever we know we're going to be talking about something that is explosive. Was that this one making that noise or that one? You know, it could be the iPad that it's up against. That's probably what it is. So, okay, all right. Okay, so basically, we feel that we know that there are certain disagreements that we have that have the capability of being explosive. Either we know it because of history, that we've talked about this kind of thing before and it was explosive, or we know because of the strong feelings that we have about this particular thing, right? And so we don't use this technique for every single disagreement, but we use this for certain ones, the big ones that mean something. So here are the steps. Make an appointment, give your undivided attention, state your own feelings, ask questions and summarize, confirm or correct, apologize for any wrongdoing, and then tie up loose ends. These are the steps of Pass the Mic. Now, for many of you, these are just active listening steps. But the reason we call it Pass the Mic is because in our case, the person with the object in their hand, in this case, it's a microphone, but in another case, it might be a pencil or a pen or something like that. The person holding the object is the one who speaks. And when they're ready to let the other person speak, they hand the object to them, and that person speaks. The person who asked for the appointment is the one who was wronged. Now, you may not feel like you did anything wrong. That's not really the point, right? The person who asks for the Pass the Mic is the one who feels wronged. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. So April's stance in a situation when I make the appointment is different from when she makes the appointment. You understand? We're going to demonstrate for you. You'll see what that means in a second. Hey, babe, can we have a Pass the Mic maybe tomorrow at 3 o'clock or something like that?
You know, sometimes when your spouse makes an appointment, though, it can bring anxiety. But it has to happen. It does, just so you know. Okay.
Does it bring anxiety when I...
Yes.
That's really...
Are you kidding me?
So now you're like...
Because he never calls Pass the Mics. It's me. So if he calls it, you know I'm like, okay. Sure, babe, I'm available.
You are, okay. Okay, so now it's 3 o'clock, and it's the next day or whatever, and here we are. We will literally sit across from each other just like this. So something happened earlier this week that at first I thought was no big deal, but for some reason I couldn't shake it. And I thought, you know what? I think I need to talk to April about this. First of all, it's not life or death. It's probably really no big deal, but it just bothered me. So the other day, you washed our clothes, and I really appreciated that. Thank you for that. But when you were finished, I noticed you folded your clothes, but you left my clothes in the hamper. Why are you laughing? And I don't know why, but it kind of made me feel, oh man, I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure if I felt taken for granted or unloved or man, you know how bad I am. I'm not good with my feelings. I'm not sure. So I just didn't like it. I'm not even sure what it was that I didn't like, but it just made me feel some kind of way. And I'm not sure what that was about, but I just really like it when, I'm acts of service. And I don't know, I like it when you do things, especially like that day, I was really tired, and I really didn't feel like folding my clothes. It just would have been nice if you had done mine too. I don't know. Anyway, I might be tripping. I'm sorry. Anyway, I think I'm done.
So are you saying that when you saw that, did it make you feel like I didn't care about you? Or that I didn't, I wasn't thinking about you at all?
I know you care about me, so it wasn't that. Maybe it was that you weren't necessarily thinking about me. Maybe that's it. Maybe.
So did you feel like I kind of left you hanging, like I was, basically what you're saying is you felt like I was really not even thinking about your love language or thinking about how you would feel when you saw it?
Not exactly. See, I know you're always doing stuff to think about me, so I know that's not it. But it is kind of how I felt. So it's kind of weird. I know that's not what you're doing. Anyway, I really wish I understood my feelings better. Just sometimes I sat around thinking about this for a long time, trying to figure out what it was that I was actually feeling. The closest thing I can say is I think I felt like maybe you were just too busy for me. Yeah.
Wow, I can understand how you would feel that way. I'm very sorry because that's not what I meant at all. I do care about you, I love you, and I was thinking about you actually. So I'm very sorry, and I don't want you to feel that way. I never want you to feel that way.
Wow, that makes you feel better. Thank you. I think I'm good. Do you have anything you want to say about this?
Yes, I just want you to know that the only reason why I did not fold them is because the last time I folded your clothes, I saw that you refolded them. So I actually was thinking about you, and I didn't fold them because I thought, you know what? He has a particular way. I really don't know if I'm able to do the way he likes it, fold the way he likes it. So I'm going to leave them unfolded so that he can fold them the way he likes and won't have to refold and do it again. So I actually was thinking about you, but I am sorry that when you saw that, you thought that I wasn't, because I actually was.
Wow. So literally the exact opposite of what I thought was happening. You actually were thinking about me and not. Man. Okay. Well, I guess all I would say is maybe next time tell me that, because then I wouldn't have thought of anything in the first place. If you just said, hey, I'm going to leave these unfolded because I remember last time, I'm not sure, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that would help.
Sounds good.
Okay, now. So first of all, I want to know what you noticed about the way that we were talking to each other that you think contributed to us coming to a resolution. Is there anything that you saw? The absence of something or the presence of something? No interruptions. Which, by the way, that's like half the battle.
Now, if we did not call or pass the mic, it would not have happened that way.
Probably not.
And by the way, that is the way John expresses his feelings.
Yes.
I don't really know.
I don't really know because I'm not sure. No, I'm serious, man. Like, for real. Y'all have no idea. I have grown so much in these 24 years being married to this woman of understanding more. But, man, before, like in week one when we were married, I didn't know it all. In fact, I didn't even know to say that bothered me. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, it's weird, but I'm much better now.
So what else did you
Anything
notice?
else you notice? No interruptions is one thing. Okay, Keisha. Body language. So it was easy to hear the words for what they were because it was not accompanied with a bunch of extra stuff. That's a good point. What else do you see? Respectful tones. Now, tell me why you say that. What is it? What was it about that made it respectful to you? Excellent. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good. Anything else you notice?
And actually, the appointment gets you ready to not have the hands going
That's
and
right.
the tone and
Yeah.
all that. It gets you ready. Yes.
Wait, one more thing real quick before you say that. Hold on. The one other thing about the appointment that's crazy is it is special for us because we live lives by our calendars. So for us to put each other in our appointment book, it's like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that is something. Okay, go ahead. Excellent. By the way, the appointment helped that to be achievable too, because if I had brought this up while I was still in my feelings, I don't know that I could have said it in a matter-of-fact way. But by the time the appointment came around, I had spent that time really figuring out what I was feeling. Sometimes I journal some stuff and write some things down, take little notes or whatever, just so that I'm ready for that. So all of that is a preparation to make sure that it doesn't descend into the normal back and forth kind of thing. Excellent observation. Absolutely.
Yes, you can.
So it's a good point because April tends to get anxious when I make the appointment. And so it'd be good for me to also allay any fears that this is some, road to divorce conversation. You know what I'm saying? I can say, I'd love to make a pass the mic with you, but I just want to assure you right now, honestly, this ain't that deep. I might just be tripping.
Or you can say, I want to make an appointment. It was about the laundry
I can say
situation.
that too. Yeah, specifically about what
So
it was.
then now I can think about, what did I do wrong? Oh, no. And get myself ready. So that is okay to do.
Oh, I saw a hand here. Oh, yeah. Right? Right? Which happens a lot, by the way, for men. We're not given much right away because we don't know how to say it sometimes. Yeah. One more thing that these things have helped me with, I have learned to figure out what I'm actually feeling through the process of April basically trying to figure out what I'm feeling. So sometimes we come to the understanding together. Sometimes I come to a pass the mic still not knowing what I really felt. And it's not until she gives the right words that I say, yep, that's it, bingo. That's what I was feeling. It doesn't happen all the time though, because I'm weird like that.
So what did you know? Oh, go ahead. Yes, you actually, we've said you can end it with the apology.
Are you asking if
say,
the
do
other
you-
person shouldn't talk at all the entire time? Or
No,
are you
you mean
asking
the part where he says, "Do you want to say anything about the situation?" Is that what you're talking about? Oh, no response.
that's not quite the same thing.
No.
That is a thing, but maybe not quite the same. Part of the secret sauce to the pass the mic is the back and forth. It's a communication exercise. So what we're really trying to accomplish is we want to have an exchange of ideas in a civil way that will allow the free flowing of the ideas to actually happen. We want there to be understanding at the end. And if you just sit and listen, but you don't respond to me, I won't be sure that you really understood. And I don't want to leave that session and come 2 days later to find out that you understood or not, when I could have actually helped you clarify it there. So the purpose of this, it's not so much a one-sided thing, which you could do as another thing, because sometimes, like April said, I just want to be heard. So maybe that's more supportive listening. You know what I'm saying? Where you may say little things here and there, but you're not necessarily trying to contribute to the conversation. This is a way for us to have a communication that does not end up like it normally does, where we're just arguing back and forth. Negative words are said, and we never resolve
Or
it.
somebody leaves still feeling unresolved or
That's
or
right.
issues.
That's right.
With
Yes.
Pastor.
Ah. That's hard for you. Yes.
So I'm just like that. I want to handle it right then. I do not want to wait. But what I know is that if I don't wait, I probably will not get the results that I want because I want it to be resolved. I'm a peacemaker. I want things to be peaceful. And when they're not, it bothers me. So if I know that a pass the mic will actually bring the peace, that is what helps me to wait because I don't want to wait ever. I want to resolve it now. Let's just go ahead and talk about it now, But what happens, though, is that when you do the pass the mic, guys, these principles roll over in the regular, quick conflicts that you have, where we end up doing pass the mic when when we didn't call for a pass the mic, because we're used to doing these principles, following the steps. So we actually follow them now with regular, the way that we used to fight and the way we do now is so different. Because we have, I've been patient enough to wait. And then now we can actually have at the moment, conflict resolutions right then because we've done the pass the mic and we've practiced it. So I would just say, think about the peace that will come.
One more thing, you don't have to wait as long as you think. It's not like you have to wait several days or anything. We've had it where we called pass the mic for 20 minutes from now. Mm-hmm. Like right now is not the time because John and Julia are here. We need to go upstairs and do this. So April would say, hey, we need to have a pass the mic. Can we do it in 20 minutes? I'll say, okay. Meet me in the basement. All right. So it doesn't have to be 3 days from now on Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that's how it works.
We would actually recommend that it's not 3 days or days. It
Yeah.
would be better if you could schedule it for that evening or,
Yes.
Later on
At
that
an
day.
appropriate time that will allow you whatever time you need to get your thoughts together and to remember, like go back to your picture that you took for today and look at those steps and make sure you don't violate them. Go ahead. Yes. I would say practice, first of all.
We did not do the pass the mic right initially. I'm
Right.
going to show you my position when we were doing the pass the mic. When we initially did it, he's telling me his feelings, and I'm going like this.
Like give me the mic.
Seriously.
Like,
And
okay,
then
let
he's
me
like,
take that.
why are you doing that? So then that ends it right there. So it really does take. It
takes practice.
It takes practice.
It takes a lot of self-discipline.
Yes, it takes you really saying to yourself, like, I literally have to be like, do not say anything to myself.
Yeah, don't show your facial
expression. Quiet.
Yeah.
Because I want to say so badly. You the one who changed, who's going in there refolding the clothes. I feel like it could have been resolved me saying that right away.
Right.
But he had feelings that needed to get out, and I knew that. And I knew also the good thing about the defending yourself, the part where it says tie up loose ends, that's the part where you can say, do you have anything that you would like? You know that's coming. Mm-hmm. So that's where you can kind of defend yourself in a way. You know what I mean? You know, you're not going to
You
come in
can-
a defensive way.
You can simply explain what your perspective was on that. That's
Exactly.
appropriate then because now I've been listened to.
Right. So you
know?
know that's coming, so that, I think, is what can kind of hold you from
Yeah.
the temptation.
Any other questions? That's the last slide, right, babe?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
that's the last one. So whatever questions you have, it could be about this or statement, whatever. I don't know if you want to do a mic. We don't have to. We can hear everybody, so it's fine. Oh,
Okay.
wow. All right. Just in case you want to do something that's like a little more
Anonymous.
anonymous. Yes. Okay. So go ahead, and then we had one hand here too.
True, true. Right, right, right.
Yes. So I want you to notice one thing. Nobody said this, but this goes to your question. Notice the entire time that I told April what my issue was, I kept using I statements. It was about how I felt. I never said, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. It was, I felt like this and I felt like that. So it's really hard to interpret my words as blaming you for something when I talk about my feelings. That's really all I'm doing. In fact, you'll notice I said multiple times, I might be tripping, or honestly, this probably is an overreaction, or I know you're not like this, but this is how I felt. That's how you want to say it. Now, it takes time for me to do that because I was angry before, and so the way I would have done it before would be to blame her, and then that goes nowhere. But when I own my own feelings, even when I don't know them all the way, all I'm doing is sharing how I felt. That's so much less abrasive.
I want to say, too, you made a good point. You said that all he had to say back when he refolded the clothes was, hey, babe, thank you so much for folding my clothes, but I have a certain way I like it done. Can I show you how I like it? Or I'll just do it myself, right? He could have done that. That's actually a vulnerable thing to do, too. Because my response, so that's why we say don't punish your spouse do not punish your spouse for being vulnerable. Because if he did that and my response was, wow, you gonna tell me how to fold your clothes? Wow, forget it then. I'm not ever doing anything for you. You do everything yourself. If you're gonna tell me how to do it, you know what I mean? If I did that, then he would never want to approach me when it comes to that. But if he had done that, we would have never had to have that past the mic. So it's kind of like.
But this is the dance that you go through when it comes to your relationship.
It is.
It's literally, have you ever played double dutch? Y'all ever jump double dutch where you jump 2 ropes? And you have to go like this, and then at some point you get the right rhythm. This is what your marriage is like most of the time. And when you get it right, man, you know what I'm saying? It is great. But when it's wrong, you're running into each other, the rope is getting all in the way. So marriage is actually learning how to double dutch and getting better at it, figuring out each other's rhythms and stuff like that. Okay, there was a hand right there too. You want a mic?
Oh, okay.
Yes, good idea. Okay. Okay.
Just so you can see, there's a QR code on the screen. If you choose this way, it'll show up anonymously on the screen for John and April. So if you want to refer to something on that screen, you can pause and do that as well. So.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
There was that hand right there.
I'm gonna go over here just to give most people a chance.
Appreciate it. All right, so earlier in the service, you guys mentioned that one thing you had to navigate was, April, you mentioned that you felt you're a bit more sensitive and John is a bit more blunt or straightforward, as he put it. So how do you guys feel like you navigated the sensitivity and the bluntness? Like, what are some things you did, or like, what are some things you did to like navigate that?
Good question.
We're still navigating.
Yeah, it's a constant battle. It's a
It's
constant
going to
thing.
stay with us our entire marriage.
Yes. So one of the things we've done recently is that April has given me permission to say what I'm actually feeling more often, because in our relationship, I'm the one who is scared to be assertive. In other words, when I have been assertive in the past, the reaction and response has been something I didn't like. So when we were first dating, it was teary eyes or being sullen or something like that. And I interpreted that as, and I used to say it, I could never say what I'm really feeling. Now, first of all, I wasn't saying what I was feeling. Number two, it was how I was saying it. I know that now. That's my Achilles heel, though. So it's all conflated for me. It's wrapped up in this thing of I just can't be assertive, but that's not actually true. The truth is, if I say it the right way, it might still sting, but she's a big girl, she can handle it, and I need to be a little better about being okay with seeing her facial expression disappointed that I didn't like something she did. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the constant battle. So we know I can say what I'm really feeling. I'm going to try my best to say it in a way that isn't harsh, that isn't curt, that isn't blunt. Try to soften it as much as I can. And then she says, well, if I respond, we're getting teary-eyed, it's not the end of the world. I said, okay.
I did say one day, I was like, just leave me, just let me be. You know, I was like, if I am sad about it, just let me be sad. I'm really okay. And then he's like, okay. Like, I had to let him know, this doesn't mean that this is for you to be like, man, I hurt her feelings. It's not about that. Like, my body just reacts. Mm-hmm. It's just how I am. It's really an acceptance thing, because I can't even help it. I can't. I've tried. And I am working on, and what I have worked on as a sensitive person, and that is when it is given to me, sometimes I say, okay, you know what? This is him telling me about myself, and I just have to, I'm going to take it. I'm going to repeat what he said so that I can actually understand it, and we're going to end it there. Like, that has helped me. So it really is we're constantly going through this, though.
Okay,
It's
so
not an everyday thing.
No, it's just a regular
those moments,
thing.
yeah.
So I'm gonna do something, Pastor, that I hope is okay. Let's suspend any hands for a second, because we have several anonymous questions that are really good I want to get to. Some of these are really good. Okay. All right, so here's the first one. Now, whoever wrote this, don't say who you are, but I think this first one might also be tied to another one, and I'm not positive. So when you text it and then text again, it comes up as two separate things, and I don't see it together. So this person says, I am dating a gentleman who is very successful, and he's a good man. He wants us to get married, but I'm having a problem committing because he belittles me. He expects me to do everything, cooking, etc. Then there's another text that says, just because he showers me with gifts, is it wrong if I call it off? I cannot accept that because I believe it should be 100% on both ends. I think those are tied together. Not positive. But anyway, we'll just assume that it is.
This is what we always tell our premarital couples, and this is not to scare them, but it is the truth. We always say you need to think about your non-negotiables. Because whatever those non-negotiables are, if you go ahead and go into the marriage with those non-negotiables in place, like you didn't say, hey, if that's there, I'm not going to do it, you do it anyway, it's going to get worse. It's just what happens. Because when we get married, we really are comfortable to be who we are, to let ourselves out. I mean, it's almost like you can't even help it. It's just what happens because you are comfortable with this person. So whatever is happening now that you see as a non-negotiable, this is something I cannot live with, it will grow.
I also would say to whoever that was that sent that in, that you should explore that openly and honestly and be direct and assertive. So here is what I would say if I was in your situation. I would sit down with this person and let them know that this is obviously a real conversation. This is a big deal. And say, I actually love you and would consider marrying you, except that it seems as though you feel something that I don't agree with, and I want to see if that's true. It seems to me that your view of a wife is that she should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. And that's okay, but not for me. I'm just not that kind of person. So if that's what you're looking for, I don't think I can give that to you. I think we should have an honest conversation about that.
In fact, you could even
Dead
say
serious.
that's not what you're going to get.
I like to cook. I'm okay with cleaning. It's not that I'm against any of these things. It's just, for me, in my paradigm, I struggle with the idea that a woman's place is in the kitchen. That's just not me. And if that's where you're coming from, that's one of my non-negotiables. We might as well cut this off now. I mean, you need to have a real conversation like that.
I'm going to share premarital counseling we did, and the husband or the husband-to-be wanted her to be in the kitchen. And she was a businesswoman. She had her own businesses, and she was working a lot. And she was saying, there's no way that I can do that because I can't, because of what I'm doing. I'm working every day. I'm trying to run these businesses. And she told him that that was not going to be able to happen. They tried, and they ended up breaking up. They ended up breaking off the engagement because he admitted that he did not want the type of woman who was out, working most of the time. He needed her home. He specifically said, I want you home with the kids, raising the children. And that is not something that she wanted. Neither one of them are wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
They're just
There's
not
nothing wrong
for
with
each
it,
other.
right.
And see, we can look at that and be like, oh man, there's nothing wrong with that. There's actually nothing wrong with wanting that as your preference.
Yes. If you
And
want
see-
that, that's good. If you don't want it, that's fine. But you shouldn't be together. Now, it's possible that you're wrong. It's possible that you are interpreting something a certain way, and you think he thinks that, but he really doesn't.
Right.
So I'm saying it's worth exploring, and once you find out, I think you should make your decision then. But if that's what he's looking for and that's not what you are, he's probably not the right guy for you. How do you feel? How do you deal with a spouse who doesn't really reveal how they feel? Okay, this is perfect because that's me. Number one, ask yourself, am I doing anything that is possibly
Hindering them from wanting to reveal how they really feel.
yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
You should have done with the mic. You say it again. That is possibly hindering them from revealing what they really feel.
Right.
Is it possible that the way that
you're
I
responding.
respond when he or she shares or tries to share their feeling is actually keeping me from getting the result that I want? I want you to share your feelings, but then I'm not rewarding you for sharing your feelings. So that's a question. The second question is the person just incapable of knowing how they feel? Maybe you need some patience with them. Like I said earlier, April's been really patient with me over the years. It's not that I didn't want to know how I felt. It's that I grew up in an America where men weren't supposed to have feelings. I mean, this is what I was taught. It's what was modeled when I was a kid. It's what I saw on TV. It was being a woman to have feelings. So I'm actually at a point now where I'm realizing that's actually hurting my marriage. I'm trying to change it. But I had 30 years of this before I started trying to change it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe you just need to be patient with your spouse. And by the way, it might be a woman, not a man. So I'm just assuming here. I'm just talking about my own experience.
But I would also say having a third party. We're all about, again, therapy. Sometimes having that third party to help you to figure out what those feelings are is good. And there's a feelings wheel. I don't know if you have ever seen that. That gives you the words to say so that you can express your feelings. It's
In our counseling sessions, we use it all the time. We put it up on the screen so that they can use it. We'll say, how do you feel? And then the person would look at the wheel and say, okay, you know what? I feel disappointed. Oh, wow. What were you disappointed about? But sometimes we just don't even have the words to say. We don't even know. Have you heard of a feelings wheel before? Google it right now. You'll see it. They have some that
so
are really
many. They have so many.
They have some that are super I wouldn't get the one with 50 on there. There are some that have 15. That's a little bit better. It has 5 categories and 5 words in each one. Okay, let's go faster. As a man, I'm afraid of being vulnerable with feelings, traumatic past, because it could be used against me in the future discussion or disagreement. How do we work around this? By the way, somebody asked another question about this. So there are a few in here about feelings being used against them and why it is that they don't want to share their feelings. Now, to this person, if you are married, listen very closely to what I'm about to say. If you are married, I think you have a different responsibility when it comes to your feelings than if you're just in a regular relationship. I think there's something that's required when I'm one with another person, that I should be sharing things at a deep level. I think that's part of what it means to be married. If you're not married, then you need to just be working on this in healthy ways. But if you are married, I think you should be really grappling with, how do I share my feelings? And then maybe even say to your spouse, I'm scared to share my feelings because I think it's going to come back against me. And then she'll say, well, I never do that. And I say, well, yes, you do. The last time this happened, you did that. And if you don't do that, it will actually make me easier to share my feelings. You see what I'm saying?
But I think there should also be some rules that you can apply when you are having these discussions, and that is not to throw something back up in their faces. You know, that's something that can really be kind of a rule. We don't do that. You know, just like one of our rules, we do not, no word divorce ever comes out of our mouth. That's one of our rules. You will never say that. We will never say, or we try not to, and that is bringing up something that had already happened and you bring it back up and throw it in their faces. That's something that we've put in place. Because you'll never really get over it. You'll never be able to move forward, thank you, if you're constantly bringing up what happened in the past. Now, but I will say, if you have not really shared all your feelings about that thing that happened in the past, you might need to do a pass the mic. You might need to talk about feelings that you have not gotten out about that thing that happened, even if it's 2 years ago. That needs to be resolved if that thing keeps coming up.
Okay, if your partner comes to a disagreement with feelings, you can respond with logic. Feelings win every time. Hold on. If your partner comes to a disagreement with feelings, you can respond with logic. Feelings win every time. Okay, that's not really a question, but I do think, and maybe that's a part of some other text, that is a good point. When you're dealing with a conflict, there's perception and there's reality. And here's what I need you to understand. Both of you are living in perception, not reality. Did you hear what I just said? Neither one of you experienced that in a totally objective way. It doesn't happen. There's some lens that you put on every time. So you have your experience of what happened. He or she has their experience of what happened. And then there's the truth. Neither one of you has it. You can't be objective, not 100%. You just have your feelings. So that's where the argument always is. Honestly, logic, if you were Vulcan, maybe? I don't know if you watch Star Trek. But you're humans, okay? So what I'm saying is every argument, every disagreement is always about feelings. And the quicker you come to grips with that, the better you're going to be. I have my feeling of what happened, you have your feeling of what happened, and we're trying to communicate how these things made us feel. We'll both apologize to each other for doing something that made the other one feel a way that we weren't trying to do, and then we can move on. But the reality is logic probably is not going to win. You're right, because it's really about feelings. This one? In your example about not being disagreeable, what if it's because the spouse is better at communicating or explaining their point, so the spouse feels it doesn't matter to voice their preferences? Do you understand that question, babe? In your example about not being disagreeable, what if it's because the spouse is better at communicating or explaining their point, so the spouse feels it doesn't matter to voice their preference? Okay. All right. I think I understand this. Remember now, communication is really just about, I want something that's in my brain to get into April's brain. Okay? I know how I think of it, and I want her to think of it the same way. So if I'm communicating well, I'm not just saying what I'm thinking. I have to give it to her in a way that she can understand it so that she can have in her brain what I have in my brain. It's just an idea. It's not the words. It's like I want her to feel what I felt. How do I communicate that? Well, that takes some complexity sometimes because we don't think exactly the same way. So it doesn't really matter who's better at communicating. What does that even mean? Like, the person that's best at communicating is the one that's able to get it from my brain to their brain. They're the one that's good at it. So don't assume you're better at communicating because you have a bigger vocabulary. 7% is words. Who cares about that? It doesn't matter. The one who's better at communicating is the one who's patient enough and who knows how to get it into your brain. That's it. They're the better communicator. So stop thinking you're better. You may have a higher education. You may have a bigger vocabulary. That does not make you better at communicating. Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, if we agree on the definition of communication.
Okay, listen, if your partner refuses counseling in a troubled marriage, does that mean it's time to separate?
Maybe.
I do believe that it takes two. You cannot, let me tell you, you cannot fix a marriage by yourself.
Right.
It's impossible. I will never forget a friend of mine. She and her husband were going through some serious troubles in their relationship, and she said to me, I am going to give us marriage counseling. And I was like, excuse me? She was like, I just got a bunch of books, and I'm going to go through this, this workbook, and I'm going to give us marriage counseling. They're divorced right now.
Right.
And, I mean, it can't be one person. And her thing was, he didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to go anywhere. She felt like, well, if I do it, let me go through it. We have people, we have a boot camp, a
30-day
intimacy boot camp. And we had people on there by themselves because their partner wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, yes, they might get better at accepting or communicating that person, but if the spouse is not getting better at it, if the spouse is not working towards a better relationship, it's not going to work out. You cannot do it by yourself. So I would try to find out why. What is the reason why? Because sometimes, guys, this is the truth. A lot of our issues go back to childhood.
Yeah.
Childhood trauma.
And there are people who are licensed and know what they're doing that can help you through that stuff.
But I'm just saying, like, the childhood trauma could be why they don't want to go to counseling.
Yeah.
Because they don't want anybody tapping into that part of them.
Part that they're trying to ignore.
They're trying to ignore.
Yeah.
And they know that if they go to a counselor, it will be tapped, and they'll have to relive and recount everything that happened to them as a child. Yeah. And it's not what they want, and they're willing to lose their marriage then for that part to be tapped into.
So the reason I said maybe, if your partner refuses counseling in a troubled marriage, does that mean it's time to separate? The answer is not unequivocally yes. The answer is maybe, because I think there are several circumstances that need to be explored. We always feel that if you took a commitment to be married to a person, you owe it to them to do everything you can from your perspective to try to make it work. You want to be giving 100%. So we don't encourage you to give up easily. But there may be a time where it becomes clear to you through much prayer that your partner is not willing to do the work to make this work. It might be time to separate. And by the way, we've actually found in many instances that the separation itself is such a dramatic happening in their relationship that it sometimes causes the spouse to wake up and say, oh my goodness, I'm about to lose my marriage. What am I doing? So that may be something that you would have to do. But I wouldn't do it lightly. I think you should pray through that thing for real. But sometimes the Bible does say that it's good to separate. I don't think the Bible ever encourages divorce. But it does talk about separating. I'm having a difficult time expressing my true feelings when my spouse tends to... Wait. Oh. Regarding radical acceptance, what if a partner is doing something contrary to God's word, like stealing, cheating? What about LGBTQ+, wanting to be accepted in the church and continuing to live that way? So first of all, we told you earlier, we think that there is a difference between accepting who a person is and accepting bad behavior or negative behavior. We don't think that you're supposed to just accept negative behavior. So if it's something that's going against God's word, you don't have to accept that. But I do think that even though, and this is probably the hardest position for a Christian to take, even though we don't like what the person is doing, we can still love that person. So it's possible to support them and love them as a person without supporting their negative behavior. That's hard, but it's what God does to us every day. He hates sin, right? He doesn't want us to be in that, but he hasn't thrown us away. He still loves us. So it's difficult to do, but I think you can do it. Anything else you saw, babe? Say it again, baby. You did that? Oh. Oh, here's the last one. I'm having a difficult time expressing my true feelings when my spouse tends to use it against me. That's what I thought earlier. Whenever we were having a difference of opinion. That was the thing I was talking about earlier. I was saying it's just like the other one. So that one, I think you need to set some ground rules in your relationship when you're communicating with each other that says, if I share something with you, I want you to treat it like it was in confidence. Like, act like you're a pastor or a lawyer, and you're not going to bring this up later on in something that may not even be related to throw it back in my face to use it against me. That's not fair fighting at all. When your partner is vulnerable and shares that with you, they're hoping you use that to caress their heart, not to stomp on it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's an important thing to do. What did you see just now, babe? That was it? Okay. This one right here. Regarding radical acceptance, what if my current marriage is a result of infidelity on both parties? I moved it, didn't I? Oh, is that what happened? Oh, man. Regarding acceptance, what if my current marriage is a result of infidelity on both parties, and we keep wondering if it will happen again? Yeah, that's tough. So you're talking about now, you're talking about the foundation of your relationship and how it started makes you both suspicious of each other. That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a trust issue, and that's about regaining trust. So, I mean, I think there would have to be some things in place if you both are honestly deciding to be married to each other and faithful to one another, then there has to be some things in place that proves that you are able to be trusted. So, for example, I should never have a problem with giving you my phone. You know all of my passwords. Some marriages you don't have to necessarily, you don't do that just because you didn't think about it, and you don't have to because there's no trust issues. But when trust issues happen, you have my code. You can pick up my phone anytime. You can see all my text messages. You can have my email, the password, everything.
When you go out of town, you can ask me the difficult questions about whether or not I was faithful with my eyes while I was away. You literally are saying,
have to be
here it
accountable
is.
to each other.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so when you say that, when you put those kinds of things on the table, that changes the level of trust that you're able to have for that person.
So I'm going out of town, so I would say, babe, when I get back, you can ask me if I was faithful. So now when I go, I know that he's going to ask me that question. So if I know he's going to ask me that question, I'm probably going to try my best not to be unfaithful. So it's about accountability. It's about showing that you are trustworthy. If you're on the phone and your spouse comes to you and says, "Who were you talking to?" and you're like, "Nobody." Now I'm gonna have some. I'm gonna feel like. But if you say it was so and so, this is what we talked about. You're open. So I'm going back to Terry Crews because he had a big thing with pornography. That was the whole thing. He said his marriage was ruined because of it. He had an addiction. It was awful. And he was saying that in order for his wife to be able to trust him again, he had to share everything with her. And that's what he did. He shared everything that he did. He shared all of his past. And he told her that I'm sharing everything with you from now on. So it's almost like, overdoing it in a way because of the break of trust that happened in your relationship. So you have to be a little bit more intentional and deliberate about those things.
So, Pastor, I think that's it. I have a question. What is this? We want it. This is super. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, we got another.
You knew about this already. You've used this before. that's why people had to probably do multiple. Oh, no problem. I think it was fine.
That's great.
Yeah. I hope this is helpful. Here's the thing we want you to go away with. You are still writing your love story. You should be deliberately trying to create something that is enjoyable, that is pleasurable, that is something that the two of you want to do every single day. And you have the power, both by the way that you accept each other and the way you communicate with each other, to make that happen. So we hope today is one of those hinge moments. You'll look back on this date and say, this is one of those times that helped me in my relationship so that we could go to the next level. Thank you very much.
Can I just say a
Pastor.
quick word? Again, I just want to thank the Nixons for being here. Do I have permission to invite them back again another time? Would that be okay? In the meantime, until we have John and April present again, because I've got your number now, John. I'll get a hold of you somehow. But in the meantime, I do want you to know that they do have obviously a website that you can see on screen, but they also have a YouTube channel with an active podcast that they do. And lots of valuable things that you can learn and follow along. So just wanted you to be aware. I meant to announce that to our greater congregation this morning, but can you tell me again tell us how they can follow you?
So it's just John and April everywhere, like the actual word just. JustJohnandApril.com is our website. If you go to Instagram, the handle is Just John and April. If you go to Facebook, it's John and April, I think. I don't know if it's Just John and April or is it John and April? I think it's Just John. I think it's everywhere. It's Just John and April. YouTube as well. Our YouTube channel is called Just John and April. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Our podcast is live on Wednesday nights at 9, and we're usually discussing some relationship issue of some kind. We have a lot of fun on there too, so it's a lot of shenanigans. Anyway, the point is, we'd love to have you we call the group the Chimes because you chime in the comments. So come on and be a chime, and we'll shout you out.
Hey, y'all, let's have prayer together as we close. Father in heaven, Lord, again, we just are so thankful that we've had this time together. This has been a Sabbath well spent. Lord, I pray that as we exit, that you give us traveling mercies. Pray for John and April and their continued ministry. Pray for their family, and pray that they would continue to be a light to all whom they serve. Lord, I pray right now, I want to pray for the marriages and the families of this church and this congregation. I pray that we know that many have walked in these doors and have come with hurting hearts. Lord, I pray that we would be able to find healing and that we would look in your word to be able to find that. Also, Lord, I pray that in these moments that we wouldn't just try and fix things and do better next time and things, that we would actively be searching out opportunities to be able to bring healing, whether that's therapy or counseling or any number of things that each individual couple's needs, that they would find those resources. Lord, I pray that your Holy Spirit would continue to be with us daily and that we would continue to seek your guidance in our lives. As husbands, Lord, help us to be better husbands to our wives. As for our wives, help them to be better wives to our husbands, that we would be able to support each other and through mutual submission be able to further your kingdom and the example that we set for others. Thank you, Lord, for being our God. We love you.